Whoa, I'm falling. Check it out. I am at a hermitage building a platform for an altar for some of the services that they perform here. Originally, I was just gonna build the altar, but to add some depth to the room, we're gonna build a platform first and then the altar. While this platform is not really structural, I still want to do a good job of framing it out. I followed all the angles of the wall and mitered all the boards accordingly, drilled them into all the studs in the area, and then I joined one long front faceboard to finish it all off. I counted for this platform to probably be half as deep, but after talking to the monks, they wanted it a little bit deeper. So now I think I'm gonna have to get more wood. After that, I measured about every 16 inches and ran a board from front to back. And I used what lumber I had left to fill in all the horizontal runners. I did end up running out of lumber, so I'm gonna have to go make a trip to Lowe's and come right back with more boards. After that, it was time to add the sheathing on top. I set a full sheet in the middle, screwed it down, and then just chopped up another sheet for all of the other spaces. Even though my sides weren't fully framed out, I did cut the top sheathing for those, and I'll just screw those in when I get back. Day 2 was a quick day. The only plan that I had was to finish this platform. Off camera, I added all of my extra bracing, and then I cut this half inch to fit the 3 empty spaces. All right, I'm at the cabinet shop. It's time to do some building of the actual altar. This is gonna be a pretty detailed process, so I'll try to go through everything as specific as possible. This altar is going to be made out of knotty alder. I don't have boards long enough to make the entire front of the cabinet, so I'm building the cabinet in 2 parts. One long face frame piece and one small wing. After the face frame was done, I moved on to the actual box of the cabinet, which I used glue, staple, and pocket holes to fasten together. One of the most important pieces of building a cabinet is your nailers or braces. I'll add 4 of these braces into the cabinet to make it stronger, to have something to screw through to attach it to the wall, and just for aesthetic purposes. After the box is assembled, I'll bring the face frame over, glue, and nail it down. Inside of this altar, I'm gonna have 2 movable shelves, so I have to add a mid in there so I can put shelf holes on it and the side walls of the cabinet. After that, for rigidity, I'm putting a 1/4 inch back on this guy. And now as I stand it up and put that extra wing next to it, you can get an idea of what I'm going for. Who needs a trailer? I would have videoed bringing this in, but the monks do not allow you to work alone. So the moment that I pulled in with my truck, I had assistance and this was brought in immediately before being able to set up a camera. So the first thing I do before installing this cabinet to the floor and to the wall is add that 5th panel onto the side. That way it looks like one seamless piece. All of these seams here will get puttied and sanded still. That way it looks like one solid style, just like all the others. And these holes will get filled also. I don't think I've explained this yet, but that's just some birch 1/4 inch in those 3 panels because they won't have doors. These guys will have doors, but those panels are gonna be faux doors, so they'll match these, but not be able to open. Look at those outlets. I could not have done better. That is very, very close. After that, I hopped into this little hidey hole, drove screws into the feet of the cabinet, directly down into the platform. And then I secured the front face to the floor as well so that it'd be extra sturdy and not move at all. One of the monks was a little nervous. I guess they thought this was gonna be it, but I'm gonna deck this whole thing in alder, basically as if I'm doing flooring. I'm gonna have tongue and groove boards here with a little bit of an overhang and their front cap that is also alder to make it look nice and finished. After I secured this cabinet to the walls and the floor, I cut these funny little shapes out to make things a little bit more rigid. I'm gonna tag these into those studs and into the face of this guy here, but I'm not gonna do that until I put these doors on because I'm gonna come from the back and staple the doors in place, so I need to have access to that. After a pretty productive day 3, I went back to the cabinet shop to make the doors that'll go on the front of this altar. I don't want this to be a how-to video on making doors because I want to make that video in the future, but I will give you a quick little rundown on what I'm doing here. I cut these 2 1/4 inch pieces of alder to fit the spaces that I had already framed out on the cabinet, pocket holed them together, ran the router around the back side of them, so that I could inlay a panel. Only 2 of these are actual functioning doors, so I don't really have to put a whole bunch of time and effort into the backside aesthetic. If you're wondering why it took so many different days, that's because I'm a busy man with a full-time job, alright? Get off my back. The first thing I did was install these faux doors. I used some shims to make sure that all the spacing around them was perfect, and then I stapled them in from the backside, that way they are permanent and not going anywhere. Alright, doors are installed. It looks a lot better now. I'm wondering if I should have installed that center one right there, because I have to put an emblem on it and I'll have to screw in from the back, but you know, today's successes are tomorrow's problems. I just made that up, put it on a t-shirt. After the doors were installed, I could put these brace pieces in finally. I drove straight to the front and I toenailed into the studs in the wall. You can see this huge sheet of alder plywood behind me. I'm gonna use that to scribe a top for this bad boy. This should be the last of what this video will cover, and we might end up seeing a finished altar today. Now it was time to move on to the top, which is kind of a headache because one single piece of plywood was not going to fit the entire expanse of the cabinet, and I had to match the contour of the wall. I did all the proper measuring and marked my lines, and once I busted out that circular saw, there was no going back. I cut off the 2 corner pieces, said a little prayer, and scooted this bad boy right on up where it belongs. Oh my Lord! Look at that. Look at that. I'm so proud. I'm gonna give you the up close and personal tour because look at that. Not a single seam on the wall. Perfectly scribed. And now I just need to fill these portions. Because I didn't miter the edges of the face frame to line up with the actual curvature of the wall, I just took a piece of scribe to hide and close up that gap, tacked it in place, and then I lopped it off at the top so that it could be flush. I had a little visit from quality assurance to make sure everything was up to par, and he said it looks good. Because I do not respect the order of operations after I did the top, I added the last 2 doors. These are the 2 functioning doors, and all I did was slap some hinges on the inside of the altar, and I had a perfectly functioning cabinet. So for these small pieces, I don't want to do plywood to plywood. So I added this little transition strip here. That way it's just a little decorative feature. It looks like it's intentional. In order to get this shape perfectly, I just tagged some pieces together. Now I'm going to scribe it onto a board and hope it works. Let's see. After putting those pieces in to tie the whole face together, I added a piece of 1.25" alder to give it one uniform look. When it came time to securing the top to the altar, I added some bracing along the back side of the walls, that way it didn't tip over in the back, drove some screws through the bracing on the inside of the cabinet so that it would suck tight down, and then I used a few nails in all of the random spots that I didn't really have access to. Alright guys, I think that's going to be it for this video. In the next video, you're going to see me do all of the flooring on the platform, all of the shelving on the top of the altar, and I'm going to build out the storage box for the Eucharist. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. If you watched this video and thought to yourself, man, that was so good, how can I give this guy money to repay him? Then you're in luck. I have a lot of stuff listed on my Etsy store that you can buy to support the channel, so head on over to reformationwoodshop.etsy.com to grab something.